Hi, this is Don with Ridge Engineering. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create a map project if the area that you're interested in is outside of the United States. People inside the United States typically use the free Census Bureau maps that are available, but that doesn't work outside of the States. So if you need a map project and you're outside the States, here's one way to do it. There are several others, but here's one way to do it. And this is going to use the OpenStreetMaps database that's available, which I'll explain in a minute. In order to process the data that we're going to download from the OpenStreetMaps, you need a program called the Static GIS Viewer. Static GIS is the software that we use for our maps. It's a company in Poland, and it makes very nice software for dealing with maps. And they have a free program called the Viewer that is used to take data from all over the world and in many different formats and create a map project that can be used with any software that's using the Static GIS engine. And so the first thing is to download their viewer, and we will have links to download the software on our support sites, but if for some reason that's not working or you want to get a newer version, here's how you can do it from scratch. So if you go to Google and you enter Static GIS Viewer free download, like I did here, the very first link that'll pop up will link you to the page on the Static GIS site to download the viewer. And I'm not going to go through that because I've already done it, but if you just download the viewer and install it, and it installs like any standard Windows program. And if you're interested, you can also download the documentation and read about how the viewer works, because we're only going to be using about 1/10 of 1% of what's available in this software. It's actually pretty impressive. If you want to take a look at it, download that as well. So you'll download the software, install it, and then you'll have Static GIS version 4 available to you. Then the next step is to get the maps. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. All right, let's start here. Okay, so the next step is to get the OpenStreetMaps from the OpenStreetMap site. And again, if you go to Google and you type in OpenStreetMap, all one word, and then download, the first link will bring you to the OpenStreetMap page. And then I go over to the main page and then go over to the world map. And that downloads a very you see the a view of basically the entire world is here, and the idea is that okay, we're going to just create our own little map, not of the whole world. That's you can't do that, but what you have to do is you have to zoom into a small space. Now let's say we're interested in Jamaica for no particular reason, except I had to do this recently. So I'm going to zoom in on Jamaica, and let's say we're interested in the Kingston area of Jamaica. One of the disadvantages of the OpenStreetMap is it's a little tricky to get very large areas. I'll explain why in a minute. So you tend to zoom in on the smallest area that will work for you. So I'm going to zoom in, and here we have Kingston, and let's go in a little bit tighter. Okay, so right around there, that has the entire area around Kingston. Okay, and then if you click on the export button, it goes to a new page on the left hand side, and this shows you the area that we've bounded this area with the latitudes and longitudes, longitudes. And then what you do is you try hitting the export button, and I'll show you what typically happens if you've when you do this. You get this error because the area that you've selected is a little bit too big for this particular export. Now, we found that if you just immediately try the Overpass API link, it often works. Don't know why. We haven't really spent that much time understanding how all this works. But if you click on that, after a few seconds, you typically will get this dialog box. If you get this, then you're in good shape. So if you click on Save File, it will download to the Downloads page, typically on your computer, and it will create a file called map. And let me show you what that looks like. So here's my Downloads page, and here are some files that I've been playing with just before I made this tutorial. And so I made a map. It downloaded a map file that's almost 28 megs, not that big. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this Kingston. Helps if you spell it right. Kingston, and I'm just going to call this Kingston.osm. Now, it's important to add the .osm to the end of the file. For some reason, the download doesn't put the extension in, but these are OSM files, which is OpenStreetMap files, a very specific format used by the OpenStreetMap people. Okay, so now we have this Kingston.osm in our downloads, and typically I would move this file to another folder, your maps folder, but I'm not going to do that right now. But typically you would move this to your maps folder under your PC Travel or PC Warrants or whatever software you're using that uses these maps, and then go from there. Alright, so we don't need this anymore. And again, you can try zooming out even further. Like this is a large part of the island. If I try this, I haven't even tried this far out, so I don't even know if this will work. So it takes a little while for it to figure out what's going on. And well, that actually worked. So I'm not sure what the limits are. You might just play with this and see if maybe you can get a much larger area. Let's save this again. Let's go back to our downloads page, and let's delete the one I just did, and let's rename this one Kingston map.osm. Now if you look at this over on the right here, the size of the files, you can see that this is the largest of the files, but it's still only 81 megabytes, which probably isn't that big a deal. Yeah, famous last words. But let's see what happens. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of that. We don't need this anymore. Now what I want to do is I want to run the Static GIS program. So this is Static GIS Viewer, and this is the main screen that comes up when you run it. And what I'm going to go to do is I'm going to File and then Open, and it's already looking at the downloads page because I've been here before. Typically you would have to navigate to find it, and you have to go to All Files, so it will show all of the files. You could also go, if you know what you're doing, you can go down to OpenStreetMap. These are all the file formats that the Static GIS Viewer supports. But here's an OpenStreetMap format .osm. So if I click on that, it would just show the files that have OSM plus any folders. So we're going to select Kingstone. Let me rename that correctly, just to be, because I'm annoying. All right, so Kingston map, open. Now it's bringing that map in. It's doing all kinds of stuff in the background. And here's the actual map. And if I zoom in on areas, here we know is downtown Kingston. So if I keep zooming in, then you'll start popping up the streets. And these are really nice looking maps. There's lots of colors. The roads are different sizes and different colors. The features in the map are different colors. Unfortunately, that doesn't translate exactly when you run our software for reasons we don't quite understand yet. But so here's a nice little map, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to, if you're used to using the Static GIS viewer for PC travel, you know you have to go through and do some stuff. You don't do any of that. You just save this as a project. And again, you would typically be in your maps project. Let's do that. Let's go down to, let's say I'm playing with PC-Travel-3, map files, and Jamaica. And you can see that I've been playing with this before. And let's call this Kingston. All right, and we'll just save that. And then we're also going to save it, because we always do this with our software, as PCT. And we're going to save that, and that already exists, so we're going to replace that. And that's all we have to do. So now our map project has been created. It's ready to use in our maps. And in the next step of this tutorial, I'll show you how that works. I just showed you how to make a map project using the OpenStreetMap website and then Static GIS. And we use Jamaica as an example, but I don't have any data files for Jamaica. So in order to show you how it works in PC Travel, I went and made a project file out of the area around our offices in Temple Terrace, Florida. So I went to the OpenStreetMap website, zoomed in on the area around our office, created the OSM file, then used the Static GIS viewer program to create the project. And I called the project TT-OSM, and I also made the PCT that we actually need for the software. So, and then I put those in a folder under the PC Travel 3 section of the libraries, which is where PC Travel 3 stores all of their data. I created a folder called Temple Terrace OSM under the map files, and that's where these files are located. So we're all ready to run PC Travel 3. So let me get rid of this, pull up PC Travel. This is PC Travel 3. If you haven't seen, it's relatively new. So if you haven't seen it before, this will be a brief introduction to how the software works, but just very brief. There'll be other tutorials on how this works. First, I'll just check to see that everything is set for the preferences, and you can see that I have the map file set to the Temple Terrace OSM folder that I created, and that's where that PCT file is located. And then there's other stuff that I'm not going to go into right now, but one of the new features of PC Travel 3, reasons for delay, report titles, color codes. If you're used to PC Travel 2, then most of this stuff will be familiar. Reasons for delay is a little bit new. There'll be separate tutorials on all this stuff. All right, okay. So let me just open an existing study. And I've already set the data files and I already have some sample files that you actually get with your software. So I'm going to open that study. And this is the View Edit Study Parameters screen. It has the information about the study on the left-hand side, and it also has all the statistics calculated out on the right-hand side. If you're not used to PCTV3, this is a little bit new. This is kind of a combination of two screens from PC Travel version 2. And again, I'm not going through all this right now. Let's go to the map. And now remember that because of the way I make these tutorials, the map area is much smaller than what you'll normally see on your screen. So this is pretty tight, but you can see that there's the area there. Let me just pick one of the runs and I'll print it and then zoom in a little bit. And you can see that there's a lot of information on the screen. You can see the roads, and it's easy to work with. And you can do all the things that you normally can do in PC Travel. You can select a point, you can edit nodes, you can trim, you can do all that. And you can see it on the map. We're still trying to figure out why this map doesn't look quite as good in when it's been converted in static GIS. So maybe by the time you're actually using the software, the maps will look like you see on the website at the OpenStreetMap website. But this is certainly workable. There's nothing wrong with what we see here. Okay, again, I'm not going to show all the details of how this works. I just wanted to show you how the OpenStreetMap looks. You can do all the things you want to do. Click a point. So everything that you want to do on the map, you can easily do with the OpenStreetMap stuff. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks a lot.